Hello, good afternoon, and we are going to talk about factoring right now. Now, what you see here is a general way to factor trinomials. And these aren't special cases, these aren't a difference of two squares, this is just the regular type of Algebra 2 factoring problem. So, a lot of you are going to look at this and it's not going to make much sense, but I think after I show you a couple examples, you'll start to get the hang of it. So, let me show you an example. Let's say it's 2x squared minus 11x minus 40. And let's say that equals 0. And we're actually going to solve this by factoring. Okay. Factoring, most people would agree with me. They think it's easy when this number right here is a 1. When it's just x squared. Then you can kind of do it in your head. When this number is not a 1, when it's 2, 4, even like 12, where it's got multiple factors, that makes it infinitely more difficult. So this right here, this red stuff, is a technique to make this easier. So let me see if I can explain this to you in a way in which you'll understand this. First thing you do, you take this number here, the 2, and the negative 40, you multiply them together, and you get negative 80. Then you look at this number, which is the negative 11. And what I usually do is write them both right here. So I got negative 80. Remember, negative 80 was 2 times negative 40. And 11, negative 11, was this right here. What I need to know is I need two numbers that multiply together to equal negative 80 and yet add together to give me negative 11. So let's think about all the ways to get 80. And I'll do this in blue, so that'll be our thinking numbers. So we got 8 times 10. I have 4 times 20. I could have 5 times 16. I could have 2 times 40, and so on. And just, I think that's all of them, but well, except for 1 times 80. But if you look at them, how can I get 11 out of these numbers? Well, there's only one, and it's right here. The only way I can get 11 by adding these numbers together, and you know that one of these numbers is going to be negative, is the 5 and the 16, because 16 minus 5 is 11. And if I make this a plus and this a minus, then that's going to satisfy what I need, because I need two numbers to multiply together that equal this and add together to equal negative 11. So these are the two numbers I look for. So now watch what I do next. Okay, here's my problem. Instead of going immediately into the two binomials like this, I'm going to rewrite this as follows. Watch, 2x squared, and I'm going to write plus 5x, now that's this 5 right here, minus 16x, that's this negative 16, that's minus 16x, and then I'm going to be writing minus 40. And that equals 0. So I've split the negative 11x into these two things. It still equals negative 11x, but I've used this red rule here to help me figure this out. Now watch what happens next. What I'm going to do is split this into two sections. This section here and this section here. So I'm going to take the 2x squared plus 5x, and I'm going to pull an x out of that. Okay? Because there's an x found in these two things here, but I can't factor out a 2 because it's a 5. So I say x times what is 2x squared? That would be 2x. And x times what is plus 5x? That would be plus 5. So if I were to distribute this through here, x times this and x times that, I would get this right here. Then I'm going to put a plus sign, and I'm going to put these together. Okay, but this time, I'll go ahead and do this. Watch. Okay, that equals 0. And now I'm going to pull out what I can factor out of negative 16x and negative 40. So there's not an x in each of these this time. So what is the number that goes into 16 and 40? And that would be 8, and in particular, negative 8. So now watch. I'm going to recopy this, And now I'm going to still keep my plus sign there. That's okay. And I'm going to pull out a negative 8 out of this. So I'm going to factor out a negative 8 out of these two things. So I say negative 8 times what is negative 16, and that would be a positive 2x. There's an x there too. Negative 8 times what is negative 40? Well, since I'm taking out a negative, I'm going to need this to be a positive 5. Now, here's the cool part about this red big old thing here. If I do this right, I will always get the same thing matching here and here. And when I factor this out, I can have 2x plus 5 as one binomial, because I'm now going to make this here, right here. So there's 1. Since that appears in each one, I can factor that out. And what's left gets put in my other thing, x plus negative 8, which we write x minus 8. That equals 0. Now we can check this, and I'm going to do that in a different color on a different layer here. I'll do that in like pink. If I check this to see if, in fact, and you should always do this, to see if that is this, then I just FOIL it. And this is a little review of foiling. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 8 would be minus 16x. 5 times x plus 5x. 5 times negative 8 is minus 40. Now, that should look real familiar there because that's the same as that. These two things are the same. So you know it's going to be equal. And if I combine these two middle steps, I'll get negative 11. So I'm just going to fade that back out of here so I can't see that. Go back to my blue, and I'll finish this up. I'm going to now solve this. Back on my background there. Sorry about that. Going to solve this. So what I do is I set each of these parentheses equal to 0. X minus 8 equals 0. And I'm going to solve them out. I would subtract 5, of course. I'll do this real quick. Negative 5, 2x, divide by 2. I've done this a million times. This is negative 5 halves. That would be one solution. Negative 5 halves. And over here, of course, I'm just going to add 8 to both sides. X equals positive 8. Believe it or not, when people first learn this method, they resist it because it seems like so much work. I think this is a huge mistake to resist this because it does make things way more manageable when this number here becomes much bigger. So I can show you different examples in the future, but I think if you just go back and watch this a couple of times, it will make a lot of sense, especially when you start thinking about how it relates to this red letters. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.